major news tonight as Tony Burke is forced to cancel the visa of a Hezbollah supporter at the 11th hour after our revelations. This as we further expose this preacher's links to Australians. Our exclusive in a moment. Cyclone Alfred continues its terrifying approach towards Brisbane. We'll get full coverage from meteorologists and our reporters on the ground. And despite the natural disaster, Albanese refuses to rule out calling the election this weekend. Matt Canavan and Adam Crichton will be here in a minute. Also tonight, Donald Trump's warning to Hamas after meeting with hostages in the White House. First, let's have a look at this major national security story. The Home Affairs Department has cancelled the visa of a pro-Hezbollah preacher at the 11th hour after our revelations last night. Hussein Maki was set to arrive in Australia within days, fresh from attending the funeral of terror leader Hassan Nasrallah, who he called one of the world's greatest freedom fighters. If you missed our report last night, here's some of the inflammatory content Maki's posted online.
Palestinian history, when things go very quiet and everyone seems to think that it's all over, people come out to resist. Palestinians come out to resist.
But you know, my favorite shuhada are always right at the back. I love to go to their graves because when I sit down next to their graves, there's no name because they really reflect self-annihilation in God.
Sacrifice and blood and martyrdom and defending the weak and mothers saying goodbye to their sons and wives saying goodbye to their husbands. That's what it looks like on the side that's inspired by Karbala today, contemporary.
Despite all of this and despite praising Nasrallah and attending his funeral, Maki was set to arrive for a speaking tour of Melbourne and Sydney any day now.
In a couple of days I'll be in Melbourne and Sydney and I'll see all you guys there, inshallah.
Well, after our report last night, there was outrage in the Jewish community that former Israeli government minister Ayelet Shaked had her visa cancelled, but not this Hezbollah-supporting preacher. The Australian Jewish Association said, so a senior former minister from Israel's most diverse government is banned by Labor, but a pro-terrorist Islamic preacher is welcomed to Australia. By now, everyone knows that Labor would sell their grandmothers for a few extra Western Sydney votes, but this is next level. And Jewish community advocate Marnie Perlstein said, please explain, Australia, how Ayelet Shaked, former Israeli Minister of Justice, was denied a visa to Australia, but Hussein Maki, who just attended Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah's funeral, gets to come and do a speaking tour. We called on Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke last night to cancel this visa in the interest of social cohesion and national security. But Tony Burke told us last night, well, Maki's been to Australia before. But then today we confirmed that Home Affairs, the department, has now cancelled his visa. Maki will not be arriving in Australia. Now, to be clear, I've since learned that this was a decision that Tony Burke had nothing to do with. It was made by his department. And Tony Burke wouldn't even comment on this today, despite the fact he spoke in quite strong terms about Ayelet Shaked's visa ban. He said that he was concerned she'd undermine social cohesion. But nothing from Tony Burke today on this visa cancellation. Not one comment. Now, Maki declined to respond to our questions yesterday, but then today he posted to social media that he was the subject of a smear campaign. He said Sky News ran a smear campaign against me to get me banned from Australia, and he complained about Zionist accounts tweeting Tony Burke non-stop to pressure him, etc., etc., and he encouraged his followers to contact Tony Burke. But when I contacted Hussein Maki yesterday, he did get my questions and he blocked me from his Instagram account. He just didn't answer them, didn't respond. Now, over the past 2 weeks, we've exposed a collection of pro-Hezbollah supporters in Australia. And now tonight we can reveal the connections between Maki and other Australians. Here's Maki with one Australian who we revealed attended the funeral of Nasrallah, Hassan Jabir. That image was taken in Iraq, we believe, in August last year. As you may recall from our reporting last week, Jabir was prominent at pro-Palestinian rallies here in Sydney. Then here's Mackie with Abed al-Majid Mortada. This image was taken in Australia in July last year. And Mortada also attended Nasrallah's funeral recently. Then another one, here's Mackie with Ishaq Zain. And if you can see your screen closely, the caption on that image, taken from social media, says, "Brother for life." We believe that was also taken last year in Iraq. And finally, here's Mackie cutting the hair of a Hezbollah supporter who lives in Australia, known online as Akasabra. And he also attended Hassan Nasrallah's funeral in Lebanon, tagging me in the post so that I'd know he was there. There are many other Australians that Mackie has connected with and will continue to investigate and expose this issue. Now, Shadow Home Affairs Minister Senator James Paterson called last night for Mackie's visa to be cancelled. He said no one who attended Nasrallah's funeral should be welcome in Australia. Well, now, tonight, Paterson says this raises questions about the other Australians who attended the funeral.
What is being done about the Australian citizens who were identified, again by Sky News, attending Hassan Nasrallah's funeral in Lebanon several weeks ago? Some of them have now returned to Australia. What is being done about them? Are they being investigated for associating with a listed terrorist organisation? Why didn't the government use the temporary exclusion powers to keep them offshore while those investigations could take place?
And he's right. The visa cancellation is an acknowledgement that attending an event organised by a terror group is a problem. ASIO Director General Mike Burgess said just last week that attending overseas terror events would be concerning.
As a security service, I'd be, regardless of whether it's listed or not, if they were going to an event where there were violent extremists or known terrorists, we would be interested as Australia's security service.
Yet we still haven't heard anything from Tony Burke about what he's going to do with the individuals that we've reported, we've named and shamed them, we've exposed them, who attended the funeral. Tony Burke has been accused of having a clear conflict of interest here. His electorate of Watson has a large Muslim community who he needs to vote him back in as he comes under pressure from the Muslim Votes movement. But he's also Home Affairs Minister. He's in charge of all of our national security. He's in charge of counter-terrorism. And Hezbollah is a listed terror organisation, whether he likes it or not. So his department had to take action here today. But you compare his lack of leadership with what we're seeing right now in the United States. President Donald Trump met with some former hostages in the Oval Office in this emotional meeting.
Were you all taken on October 6th?
Yes.
So this was hell, huh?
It was the worst thing that anybody can go through. One of the days they handcuffed one of the boys that was with us, and when he came, and he brought a cutter, and he cut his hand, and smiled. They used to eat in front of us while they starved us.
It's a miracle.
That you're living.
Yes.
My family and I myself, we believe you've been sent by God to release them.
We think they could get out thanks to you. Yes.
We are here because of you.
We're alive and free people because of you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
That's
We want
what a story. I've
friend,
never had anything like this.
friend.
I mean, I've saved a lot of people, but I've never seen anything like this where you lived under those conditions.
What a powerful meeting. And as you heard there, many of the hostages thanked Trump, saying that they believed if it weren't for him, they'd still be in captivity. You can't even compare Trump's moral leadership to that of our hopeless ministers like Albanese and Burke. Trump was clearly deeply moved and troubled by the stories of torture and starvation that he heard, because after that meeting, Trump sent the strongest possible warning to Hamas. He wrote, "Shalom Hamas," means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. He said, "I'm sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say." And he went on, "That is unwavering solidarity. That is unwavering moral clarity. This is what we've been missing from international leadership since October 7, and we need more of it, particularly in Australia."